Hello y'all, in this video we'll be looking at a video of Microsoft Office versus Google Workspace. Personally I prefer Microsoft Office, but we'll just react to this video, see what they have to say, so.
Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This is Gabe with Indigo Software, genuine Microsoft software for less. So in today's video, we're going to talk about Microsoft Office versus the Google Workspace, and we're going to compare some pros and cons to both to help you make a decision which is better for you or your business. Now, before we get into that, if you're interested in genuine Microsoft software at a great price, check out Indigo Software. We'll have links to.
Wait, I forgot to mention really quick, I do have a 365 subscription. I have the personal $7 plan. And that gives me access to all the Microsoft stuff. Of course, I have to use the web version of all the apps because I have a Chromebook, so you can't install them locally. Because for some reason, I think Google must hate Microsoft, bro. Because you can't even install Edge on a Chromebook. I love using Edge. I can't even install it on there. It's crazy. You have to go in Linux and install it on a, if you want to install Edge on a Chromebook, it's crazy. Oh, here we go.
In the description box below. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, so to start off, we're going to talk about what is the purpose of Microsoft Office and Google.
Of course, this video, I forgot to mention, will be more focused on business, but we'll still take a look at it.
Workspace. So Microsoft Office and Google Workspace are suites of productivity tools, and they let you perform common business tasks in the cloud using a web browser or a desktop application. These are things such as sending emails, managing calendars, creating documents, spreadsheets, presentations, video conferencing, file management, and team collaboration. Microsoft Office also provides a comprehensive range of desktop applications, and the next thing that we're going to cover is pricing. All right, so with Google Workspace, you have 4 available plans. You have Business Starter, Business Standard, Business Plus, or Enterprise. The Business Starter is $6 per month, Business Standard is $12 per month, Business Plus is $18 per month. The key difference between these accounts.
I also forgot to mention with OneDrive, which is bundled into 365. If you have a personal subscription, both of the plans you can get that are monthly have 1 terabyte of OneDrive storage, and then the free version only has 5 gigabytes of OneDrive storage. So there you go.
Are the storage, user accounts, and security features. So with Google's starter plan, you have 30 gigabytes, and then the following plans have 2 terabytes, 5 terabytes, or unlimited storage. And now let's talk about Microsoft Office.
I'm pretty sure with Microsoft it could get unlimited storage too. I think my school uses unlimited storage. Because I have like 80,000 emails in my inbox.
Pricing. So we're going to talk about the 365 pricing as well as the Office one-time purchase pricing, which is my strong preference because I don't like monthly subscriptions. But we'll cover both of them just to give you guys an even comparison. So Microsoft 365 Business Basic is $6 per month. 365 Apps for Business is $8.25 per user per month. The business
if you're doing a personal subscription for 365, there's 2 plans. There's one that's $7, and then I forgot the other one. I think the other one's 12 or 10 or something like that. I have to look up the other one, but they're basically the same. But the $7 one lets you use your 365 with only 1 Microsoft account, and then the more expensive one lets you use it with up to 6 Microsoft accounts. So since I only have 1 Microsoft account, I did the cheaper ones because they were the same features.
And standard is $12.50 per month, and the business premium is $22 per month. Now, all of the business plans provide 1 terabyte of cloud storage, and the enterprise plans can give you 5 terabytes of storage. Now, as we said, there is a one-time purchase version of Office that you can just purchase once and you own the applications. You also get access to OneDrive, which is Microsoft's.
It's so weird though because Chromebook, it seems like they want you to always use Google because it's by Chrome. Because like Outlook and OneDrive, when I installed them, I had to go through the browser to install it. And like I said, you can't even install Edge. Even when you try to go online, look up Microsoft Edge download, you could find it, but it won't download it. Even when you go in the Play Store, it says, this app is not currently available. It's crazy. Because I'm pretty sure you need Linux apps to install Edge on Chrome OS.
Service, and you only get 5 gigabytes with your purchase, but OneDrive is a service that can also be purchased separately as a monthly.
Yeah, that's a thing with Microsoft that's interesting, is that everything can be purchased a la carte. So if you just want OneDrive, you could just pay for OneDrive. If you just want Word, you can just pay for Word. But for me, I like using all of Microsoft services. So I just prefer using all 365. So
subscriptions for additional storage. So if you were to purchase Microsoft Office 2021 from Indigo Software right now, it comes in at $149.99. And if you divide that by $6, which is the same price as the 365 starter plan, in 2 years you will essentially have paid off your Office purchase and will never.
And that's if you want to pay once. Now I do a monthly subscription, but that's again for a one time, which you could always do.
Have to purchase it again. So on my computer, I run the Office 2021 Home and Business on this Mac. I also have a copy for my PC, and I use OneDrive for file sharing and cloud computing, and I don't have to pay a monthly subscription at all. I actually use a separate service for storage, usually Dropbox or Google Drive, but I like not having to pay monthly for these productivity applications. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the different applications.
See, I used to use Dropbox before I got my 365, and now I'm using OneDrive, so because it's a lot more convenient. Because with Samsung Gallery, they have a feature where you go in gallery settings and you can sync it to OneDrive. It's not really complicated. Like on Dropbox, you have to go in the app and enable camera uploads, but on OneDrive, you could just do it through Samsung Gallery because Samsung Gallery supports OneDrive, so that's cool.
And pros and cons to each. So when it comes to email, you have Gmail from the Google Workspace or Outlook from Microsoft.
Now I got to let you know, personally I prefer Outlook, and I use Outlook all the time because I just like it because it has calendar integrated with it, also your contacts. And I like it because it has more features than Gmail does too. Like I'm pretty sure you could schedule stuff to send and then of course attach and archive or so on, but it has a lot of cool features on Outlook, so I prefer that.
Microsoft. Gmail is robust, fast, and very easy to find messages with thanks to its powerful search functionality. So the pros here are very user-friendly, easy to set up, easy to find your information. One of the cons of Gmail is that it doesn't really allow you to sort or group your mail, something most users will often require from an email client. And Outlook is not only an email service, but it's a pretty in-depth program with a lot of features. So,
and also with Gmail, I just don't like how it's laid out either, so that's kind of why I use Outlook. So yeah.
Outlook is going to give you a lot more options when it comes to grouping and sorting mail. You can do things like schedule your mail, you can filter your mail, you have a calendar, to-do list, and those are just to name a few. And of course, Outlook can be used in conjunction with email and vice versa, but when we compare and contrast the two, Outlook is superior in our opinion. Now, one of the main reasons that people might tend to go for Microsoft Office is that with most of the plans available, you get all of the desktop versions of Microsoft products and the cloud-based ones. So this means that you can install full versions of Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and others all on your computer. But you can also use all of these programs in the cloud. You can run them from the web, and OneDrive keeps...
See, since I use a Chromebook, the unfortunate thing with me is that I have to use it through the web. There's no other way I can do it. Because I have to go into Chrome and do it, and then I just installed it from Chrome like I did with Outlook. So that's how I do it. I just downloaded 365 on my phone and then on the computer through Chrome.
Everything saved together if you want to use it that way, and that's a huge pro to going with Microsoft over Google. Now, one of the pros of Google Workspace is that you can import and open Microsoft Office documents, and you can save them in Microsoft format. So there's a little bit of like cross compatibility there. So if you're in a situation where you're using both of the services on a regular basis, it's pretty easy to do so. Now, a lot of the apps from Microsoft or from Google are broad equivalents. So we have Word, Google Docs, Excel, Google Sheets, PowerPoint, Google Slides.
And also, I don't know if we'll mention it, but also Microsoft Forms and Google Forms. That comes with 365 too, Microsoft Forms. It's pretty nice. I prefer it over Google Forms.
Outlook, Gmail, etc. So with all that laid out, this was a very broad and generalized comparison of the two. We're not going super in depth here, but the quick verdict in our opinion is that for many users, the main reason to choose Microsoft Office over Google Workspace will be the inclusion of its desktop applications. Most of its plans give you access to fully installable versions of industry standard Microsoft applications, and these are generally a bit more feature rich than the Google equivalents and make blended online and offline working a lot easier. The file storage quota and email quotas on the 365 entry-level plans are more generous as well. The key reason that you might want to choose Google Workspace over Microsoft 365 is because Workspace apps let you edit files created with both Workspace and 365, though it has to be said that this is really only advisable when simple documents are concerned. But also, the fact that everything is cloud-based in the Google Workspace means that users are nudged towards a more collaborative way of working. So my personal choice is the one-time purchase of Office. I do use Google Workspace as well for my business email, and I kind of use everything together in that way. I can work offline, I can work online. I use all of the Office applications, Excel, Word, and OneNote most notably. And I find that that works very well. They're all simple and loaded with features, but you just have to think about what works best for you. All right, so that's gonna do it for today's video. If you guys have any questions.
I think I found another one from this one. Schools have had it with Google. This one sounds interesting, so we'll just watch it after this ad. Alright, here's the video. And this one I haven't seen, so I don't know. This one sounds interesting.
Schools are ditching Google from all fronts. Up until the pandemic, Google Classroom interest was increasing year after year. But since 2020, interest in Google Classroom has struggled to even reach levels of 2015. Instead,
I know at my school, basically everything that we do is through Google. We use everything Google imaginable.
many schools are opting for third-party solutions like Schoology, Canvas, and Blackboard. It's not just Google's virtual classrooms that schools are ditching either.
Huh. See, at our school we've been using Google Classroom since a couple years ago.
Schools are also ditching Gmail. A quick Google search will bring up dozens of articles from school newspapers detailing the change. Here's a few examples. If you look up the opposite, however, not only do you find fewer results, but the results that you do find are often from 2010. And as for the oh-so-famous Chromebooks, these used to be the go-to devices for many school districts. But more recently, schools have started to complain about them. Apparently, Chromebooks...
In my school, they are. We use Chromebooks all the time. They're Dell Chromebooks.
have very short lifespans, making them a rather bad investment. This is a very bad sign, not just for Google's educational business, but their Office suite as a whole. Here's the thing. Everyday people virtually never pay for Google Drive or Google Docs or Gmail because
everything is freeware with... See, you have to understand, this is a lesson about Google Workspace. All of it is freeware. So that means you have to pay for nothing of it. Nothing. So then that gives people the less incentive to actually pay for it, because you can't pay to get more Google Drive storage, but let's be honest, nobody does that.
the free tier is more than enough for most people. So much of the money that Google and Microsoft makes from such products comes from corporations and schools. Google was never really able to break into the corporate market with their Office suite, but it did seem like they were breaking into the school market. The collaboration features and online nature of Google's Office suite made it perfect for team projects, and
that's the only thing good about Google Workspace is that it's easier to share, because with Microsoft, in order to share, you just share it with other people only if they have a Microsoft account, so yeah.
presentations. Combine this with the pandemic, and you would think that schools would be paying Google more than ever, and that was the case at the beginning. When schools didn't know where to go, they turned to a familiar brand, leading to Chromebook sales rocketing by 87% between 2019 and 2020. But now that schools have had time to become familiar with the Google shortcomings and research other solutions, it appears that a popular choice is to ditch Google, and here's why.
This kind of makes sense. Yep, Microsoft.
To understand why schools are suddenly ditching Google,
see, to be honest, I love Microsoft. The only thing is that Windows I don't really like. That's why I use Chrome OS. So basically the only thing that Google I use is my Chromebook. And everything else I use in Microsoft, because I love Microsoft.
we first have to take a look back at why Google became so popular among schools in the first place, as it was definitely not because it was the best option. I mean, there was never really any comparison between Microsoft Office and G Suite. Though G Suite had a few unique features like easy collaboration and auto-saving onto the cloud, Microsoft Office was the clear winner. And this is...
But does it? Microsoft Office also automatically saves to OneDrive, the cloud.
That's why corporations never really jumped on board with the G Suite. They were looking for the best tools available. Not to mention, people were already familiar with the Microsoft Office suite.
Let's see this. Let's do it. Okay, cool.
So going with Microsoft Office was a no-brainer. For schools, however, the choice wasn't as clear. Sure, Microsoft was better, but what real value would children, especially in elementary school, get from Excel or Word? The reality was not much. I remember back when I was in kindergarten and first grade, our class would go to the computer lab every week just to practice typing. As we moved into 4th and 5th grade, we would still write and revise our essays on paper. But when we were ready for the final draft, we would switch over to computers. But that was really the extent of all computer use. So, safe to say, Microsoft Office was quite overkill for most school applications. But it wasn't just Office that was overkill. It was really the whole computer experience. Most students had no use for a full-on Windows machine or Outlook email client. In fact, this just made students harder to manage. Instead of working on the final draft of an essay, students would just jump onto Armor Games or Miniclip. So, giving children access to a computer was often more of a distraction than a tool. Not to mention...
Well, the key is, I know one program that can solve that. Proxy. Basically, your administrator downloads it and then they go and, of course, block games. So, computers could be used as a safe tool. Yay!
Windows and Office were quite expensive. Schools often had to shell out $100+ to Microsoft alone with each computer. Clearly, what schools needed was a cheaper, watered-down version of the whole computer experience. This seems like the perfect opportunity for Google to step in with the G Suite, and that's what they tried doing in 2006, but it wasn't as successful as you might think. While Google's offerings did mesh better with the needs of schools, it wasn't something that schools really paid much attention to. After all, each school only had 1 or 2 computer labs, so paying a premium for 25 or 50 computers wasn't the biggest concern. Not to mention, schools had full control of when they would incur these costs. They could just stick around with Windows XP and Word 2003 as long as they wanted. So, in the late 2000s, schools weren't exactly jumping up and down to switch to Google, but all of this would change with the 2010s. Google's popularity within the educational space can really be summed up by one trend: schools aiming for a student-to-device ratio of 1:1. Suddenly, buying Windows licenses wasn't just a matter of purchasing 25 or 50. Elementary schools themselves had to buy several hundred, middle schools and high schools had to buy thousands, and colleges had to buy tens of thousands. Some richer schools continued to shell out money for Microsoft licenses, but this didn't last for long, as Microsoft would shoot themselves in the foot. In 2010, Microsoft would introduce a subscription model for Office called Office 365, and this would eventually become the only option. Really, the only reason for this move was that a subscription model was more lucrative for Microsoft than a licensing model. Most corporations would just pony up the cash and jump onto the subscription, because for professional use, the G Suite wasn't really a viable option. For schools, however, Google's offerings started to seem a lot more attractive. Google's offerings were not only cheap, starting at just $3 per student per year, but you could even get it for free if your school met certain qualifications. Around the same time, Google would also come out with the Chromebook, which was also perfect for schools. Schools didn't have to worry about kids doing anything too crazy with Chromebooks, because they couldn't do much to begin with. It turned out that Chromebooks and the G Suite were the exact watered-down versions of computers that schools were looking for. And before you knew it, schools were switching to Google left and right. This isn't to say that they ditched Microsoft completely. Schools might have still had a few dozen Windows and Office-based computers in computer labs. But as for the hundreds and thousands of computers that were being issued to students, these were of course Chromebooks. So when Google launched Classroom in 2014, it's no wonder why it became the go-to option for most schools. But this heyday for Google education only lasted for a few years. By the late 2010s, teachers and students started noticing quite a few shortcomings. You see, Google Classroom was nothing more than a UI to share and manage Google Drive documents and presentations. When a student turns in a document, literally the only thing that's happening is that the sharing permissions are being changed. The document gets shared with the teacher and the student loses editing permissions. That's pretty much it. This in itself was a pretty crappy solution because students could no longer edit the document once it was turned in, which didn't really make sense in a lot of situations. Also, there were no robust systems for self-grading assessments, announcements, gradebooks, online discussions, or meetings, just to name a few. These are all basic features that are available in every other e-learning solution. But despite the shortcomings, most schools put up with Google throughout the late 2010s because it was cheap and was mostly sufficient for their needs. But all of this would change with the pandemic.
Commercial.
My total body smells good.
When the pandemic hit, there was a massive influx of schools switching to Chromebooks and to Google Classroom because that's what was popular. But as the pandemic raged on, schools simply started investing in better solutions, and the reasoning isn't rocket science. Virtual classrooms were no longer an extension to in-person classrooms. For a period of time,
It's so funny because it seemed like every school used Zoom except my school. My school used Google Meet.
they were a full-on replacement to in-person classrooms. And even with the shift back to in-person classes, the utilization of these e-learning platforms is larger than ever. In fact, in many schools, it seems that the in-person aspect is now the extension. Every homework, every quiz, every test, and every project is completely online. The instructions are posted online. The students work together online.
Well, not the instructions, no. Well, yeah, back then, but I'm talking about in terms of the present tense, you know? Like, all the assignments are online, because it's what makes sense, you know? It's the future of schools, you know? Is online computing instead of paper.
And the project is turned in online. Basically everything other than the teacher's lecture itself can be found on Canvas or Schoology or whatever platform the school is using. At universities, even the lectures are automatically recorded and uploaded onto these platforms. In terms of cost, Canvas does have a free tier, but that's mostly for small-scale implementations. For example, if you're running a yoga class or a math tutoring service, you might use the free tier. For district-wide and university-wide implementations though, Canvas is not free. It's actually quite expensive. Canvas doesn't have any sort of set pricing, and each school is handled on a case-by-case basis. But here are some numbers that are floating around online. It seems that on average, schools have to pay an upfront fee of several $1,000s to set up the initial system, plus about $25 per user per month. This could be higher or lower depending on what level of integration and branding a given school is looking for, but that's a ballpark number. As you can see, that's several times more than Google's $3 per month and free tiers. But systems like Canvas are also several times more effective than Google's tiers. And given how heavily these systems are now utilized at schools, it simply doesn't make sense to go with a watered-down version from Google. The same logic applies to Chromebooks as well. Students no longer go to the computer lab once a week to practice typing. They use computers the entire day at school and after school as well. Also, they're doing increasingly complicated tasks. Nowadays, students are 3D modeling in engineering classes and coding algorithms in computer science classes even in middle school. Also, every job in the world uses Windows or Mac, so it really makes no sense to train students to use Chromebooks. Some districts are even going as far as purchasing MacBooks and iPads for students. But even those that aren't going that far are very much seeing a resurgence in Windows and Office and more professional tools in general, even though they're more expensive.
Is wild.
In the end, it seems that Google's greatest advantage within the educational space has also become their greatest weakness. When tech adoption was still relatively early stage with schools, Google was able to make a big splash by offering tech for extremely cheap, whether that be Chromebooks, the G Suite, or Google Classroom. While these options did have their shortcomings, when the virtual classroom was simply an addition to in-person learning, they held up alright. But when virtual learning is front and center, the whole Google ecosystem starts to fall apart. We should also mention that school districts are now being run by a newer generation that better understands tech. They realize that investing in good tech for students is way more valuable than buying pencils and papers and desks or even building new buildings. The ROI is simply incomparable, and that's why schools are giving up on Google. They're simply leaning towards more professional solutions that make more sense in our increasingly tech-driven world. Education may not be the only realm in which Google is losing ground.
To be honest, every job uses probably Microsoft. Like 99.9% of them use Microsoft.
They may also be losing ground in YouTube with their new ad block policies. If you want to know why, check out this video.
Okay, so there were those two videos about Google and Microsoft. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye.